You went into great detail about what's happening, particularly in China. I just wanted to go over something that I felt wasn't asked, which is fiscal second quarter sales, $45 billion plus or minus 2%. $8 billion of lost revenue opportunity, specifically relating to China and H20. It seems as if you made up somewhere some demand for a different product or from a different geography or from a different corner of the market. What was that?
Well, we got a whole bunch of engines firing right now. The biggest one, of course, is the reasoning AI inference. The demand is just off the charts. You see the popularity of all these AI services now, ChatGPT, Gemini, so on and so forth, Grok. I mean, they're just doing incredibly well across the board. And all of the APIs that they serve out and all the agentic AI services that are built on top of them, they're all doing incredibly well. I think that there's just a giant breakthrough in AI's capability, and inferencing has just become a giant workload. Second, people realize that Blackwell is just a home run. NVLink 72 is a home run architecture. We designed it to be a thinking machine, a reasoning AI system. And I think people now, the confluence of the breakthrough in reasoning AI and the availability, now the emergence of Grace Blackwell NVLink 72, perfect timing. I think that's at the core, a big part of it. And the second part of it is that our supply chain is growing and we're really ramping it up and they're doing fantastically for us. And so all of these things are all coming together.
And so it is fair to say that some of that additional supply on Blackwell and the demand for Blackwell kind of made up for the opportunity lost in China, at least in the outlook for this current period?
Yeah, I guess so. But, you can't underestimate the importance of the China market. This is the second largest AI market. This is the home of the world's largest population of AI researchers. And we want all of the world's AI researchers and all of the world's developers to be building on American stacks. And so, irrespective of the near-term revenue success that we have, we can't ignore the fact that the Chinese market is very important.
You explained, again, in some detail, that at least in the Hopper architecture, you have engineered down to the lowest spec possible. It's not possible to do anything different with Hopper for the Chinese market. But in your consideration for a different architecture or a chip for the Chinese market, is that what we're talking about, a new design or new class? And have you made that proposal to the administration, just designing from the ground up a new chip?
We're still thinking through that. They're just the limitations are quite stringent, quite limited, if you will. H20 is as far down as we could take a Hopper. We don't know how to make it even less, and so that's really the limit. So there aren't main, the limitations are quite stringent. So we have to really think through it. Whatever we make ultimately has to add value to the market, and so it's a really tightrope because the Chinese competitors have evolved and advanced greatly over the last year. Like everybody else, they're doubling, quadrupling their capabilities every year, and the volume is increasing substantially. And remember, these are data center chips; they don't have to be small; they could be quite large. Without American technology, the availability of Chinese technology will fail the market. And so, whatever we offer has to at least be competitive and has to add value to the market.
Jensen, does Huawei have an AI accelerator or a GPU that is performant as H20 or is performant of other classes of GPU that you make?
Huawei's technology, based on our best understanding at the moment, and we have a lot of ground truth there, is probably comparable to an H200. And so they've been moving quite fast, and they've also offered this new system called Cloud Matrix that scales up to even a larger system than our latest generation Grace Blackwell. And so Huawei, as you know, is a formidable technology company, and they're not sitting still, and they look for ways to compete, and they're quite formidable.
with that in mind, you've kind of explained the landscape now, NVIDIA's ability to operate in China. I mean, you and I this year alone have already discussed the idea that there are 50% of the world's AI researchers in or from China. But are you having a sense of the vacuum created that those big names, I think about Tencent or Alibaba or Baidu that were buyers of H20, that they've already pivoted and turned to the offering from Huawei because of the policy that is in place?
Yeah, they have no choice but to, one of the challenges of the changing regulations is the ability for markets to trust the NVIDIA and ultimately American platforms. And so it's prudent, I think, for the Chinese customers to make sure that they develop their stack on Huawei. And because it's hard to rely on American technology at this point. And so that's one of the unfortunate parts of changing policies. But anyhow, I have every confidence that if able to compete, American companies will compete. This is to write off American technology companies is not smart. This is the home of some of the brightest computer scientists in the world. American companies are incredibly competitive. We just have to have the confidence to go compete. And if we have the confidence to compete, we will win.
You said during the earnings call that you trust President Trump and that the president has a vision and a plan. Could I ask if you've talked to him about that plan and if it includes coordinating with NVIDIA on policy adjustment that relates to changes in technology export controls?
Well, obviously, I don't know all of his ideas, but let me tell you about two that are incredible. The first one is utterly visionary. The idea of tariffs being a pillar of a bold vision to reindustrialize, to onshore manufacturing, and motivate the world to invest in the United States and is just an incredible vision. I think this is going to be a transformative idea for the next century for us. We're all in on the idea. We're setting up plants and encouraging our partners from around the world to invest in the United States, and we have a lot of stuff going on, and so I'm very excited about that. The second major idea is to rescind the AI diffusion rule, recognizing that this isn't about limiting American technology, but this is about accelerating American stacks around the world to make sure that before it's too late, that the world builds on American stacks during this extraordinary time, the AI era. And so these two initiatives are completely visionary, and it's going to be transformative for America.
Jensen, in the time that you and I have been on air having this conversation, some news has broken from U.S. Secretary of State Rubio, who has said that the U.S. will begin revoking some Chinese student visas. What I wanted to ask you is that with U.S. government limits on foreign student visas, how does that impact a company like NVIDIA? I think about the size, but also composition of your engineering talent here in California and elsewhere in the United States.
I believe the administration still feels very strongly about the incredible importance of immigration. Look, I'm an immigrant. I know many immigrants that came to the United States to build a great life, and many of us have contributed greatly to the technology industry and the United States. I believe that's going to have to continue. Remember, people from all over the world want to come to the United States. This is just such an extraordinary country with such incredible opportunities. We want the brightest to come here. We don't want others to. We don't want everybody to be able to come here. And there should be rules. But nonetheless, for the ones that really can make a contribution, want to make a difference, we want to make it possible for them to come here and bring their great ideas, bring their great intellect, and help us build a great America. And so I think the administration is all in on that, and I don't think anything that they've said changes that.
Jensen, I surveyed our Bloomberg technology audience around the world for questions for you, and I think the most common question is understanding who NVIDIA's customers are away from the hyperscalers, but actually many questions about Elon Inc. and whether Tesla and xAI in aggregate might actually be one of the biggest customers you have. You think about not just the data center chips, but the chips specific for Optimus or in the cars, the Omniverse component. Could you speak a little about that?
We do a lot of business with Tesla and xAI. Elon's, as you know, is just an extraordinary engineer, and I love working with him. We've built some amazing computers together. We're going to build many more computers together, and the work that he's doing in Grok, his self-driving car, his Optimus. These are all, every single one of them world-class. Every single one of them revolutionary. Every single one of them are going to be gigantic opportunities. And we're delighted. I'm delighted to be working with him on that. And so I think the Optimus opportunity is just right around the corner. It's very likely that human robots are going to be robots that we can deploy into the world relatively easily. And this is the first robot that really has a chance to achieve the high volume and technology scale necessary to advance technology. And so I think this is likely to be the next multi-trillion-dollar industry. I'm very excited for him.
Jensen, let's end by talking about Europe. You alluded to a trip you're taking next week. It sounds as if the infrastructure build-out in Europe is coming. Where will you be visiting and who will you be speaking with?
Well, I'm going to leave the who as a surprise for all of you, but I'll be seeing lots of heads of states, and I'll be in France and UK and Germany and Belgium, and I think that it's very clear now that every country recognizes that artificial intelligence, like electricity, like internet, like communications, is part of a national infrastructure. No society could do without intelligence, as you know, and there's an awakening that every country has to take some initiative to ensure that their country and their society has access to artificial intelligence, and so we're really delighted to be able to work with work with the European countries to bring AI infrastructure to them and work with them to build AI factories. There's an umpteen number of AI factory projects in discussion and development, and so I'm really excited to make this trip. We're going to be all over Europe.
Well, Jensen, welcome back to Mad Money.
Hey, Jim, it's great to be here.
All right, so let's go to, it's a remarkable quarter in every single way, but you do say, I'm going to go right there, that China is positioned to lead globally, and you do not think that unless you can sell to China, you can necessarily lead with them. And I look at this market, and I'm saying there's $50 billion up for grab. I actually think it could literally be all yours if there weren't export controls. Am I wrong? And how much of that money would flow back to the United States if you could do the sales?
NVIDIA's market share in China was about 95% 4 years ago. It's about 50% today because of the limitations on the products that we sell. $50 billion a year market today. It's growing just like AI is growing everywhere. Over the course of this 4 years, the president's administration, we're probably talking about a few $100 billion worth of revenues to NVIDIA, probably tens of billions of dollars of taxes, revenues to the country, thousands of jobs, incredible opportunity. But more strategically, more importantly, this is very important. First of all, the China market is, of course, very large, but it's also the home of 50% of the world's AI researchers. The platform that succeeds is the platform with the most developers. Just like iPhone's successful because of lots of developers, the Windows successful because of lots of developers. All these platforms succeed because there are a lot of developers. China is home to 50% of the AI researchers in the world. And so we want the world to build on American technology stack. We want every developer in the world to prefer the American technology stacks. Once that happens, the developers develop on American technology stacks. American technology stacks will run AI the best all over the world. And so that's probably the most important strategic reason to be in China, because there are so many developers there and because the world is going to adopt technology from one country or another, and we prefer it to be the American technology stack.
Well, you know the president has a plan. You say that. He has a vision, and you trust him. You say that. I have to believe that you think that he has to either see the light or he has, and that things that look so dire right now in China may not be as dire, and there could be, even as soon as next quarter, more business being done than we thought after tonight.
It's hard to tell, but the most important thing is this, Jim. Our president wants America to win. And he also recognizes that this is an important market. It's a very large market. And the revenues that it could generate for the United States is significant. It's just incredible. $50 billion this year. Look, we're talking about the size of a Boeing, not a Boeing plane, Boeing the company. This is an enormous market. And so I think the opportunity left behind is quite substantial. This is also an excellent way to improve our trade deficit.
It would also seem to be that there must be some people who think that they can militarize your chips. I can't imagine a scenario where they would decide, you know what, we're going to use NVIDIA chips in our aircraft carriers. We're going to put them in our submarines. Wouldn't that be foolhardy? We would never use Huawei chips in our missiles.
That's exactly right. They have plenty of chips themselves. Obviously, we're losing market share to chips that are built locally. China is an extraordinary manufacturing capability, and they are doubling the number of chips that they're building every single year. The technology that's being offered by Huawei is extraordinary. This is an extraordinary technology company, and so we have plenty of competition there. Chinese government has plenty of choices with indigenous technology, which is their preference. And so I think that the idea that anyhow, go ahead.
But isn't it true that the president has helped you immeasurably? The huge business that you're doing in the Gulf states. When you see him, he obviously is, in many ways, NVIDIA's #1 salesperson. Is it asking too much to be able to say, and not only that, Mr. President, I also want you to open China?
Well, we're going to keep our dialogue going with the administration, and I believe that what we're explaining is ground truth. And we understand the technology best, and we understand how computing works. We understand how AI works, and we've been in China for 30 years, and so this is an area that we have a lot of expertise, and we're going to continue to share that. But let me tell you this, Jim. Listen, the president laid out a bold vision for the United States, for America to reindustrialize the onshore manufacturing, so that we can have a more resilient supply chain, so that we can create jobs locally, very importantly, so that we become great at manufacturing again. At a time when manufacturing isn't about labor, but it's about labor only, but it's about technology. And so that vision is incredible. This initiative by the president is likely going to set the United States up for a century, for this century to come. This is going to be a very big deal. I also think that when he rescinded the AI diffusion rule, it was a visionary move. It was a bold move, and he recognizes that there's an AI race, and we're not alone. And he wants America to win. And so it's not about AI diffusion limitation. It's about AI diffusion maximizing American technology.
Okay, so
and so he sees that.
Okay, so let's talk about the Blackwell ramp, which was amazing, and of course we're going to have Ultra, which is incredible, and the demand. Is the demand, as when I saw you the last few times, it sounds like you're running out of superlatives, but demand seems even stronger than GTC, it's even stronger than Computex.
The demand keeps growing because there's just more companies. Well, number one, inference has taken off. That is number one. Inference has taken off. This reasoning AI capability is genuinely a breakthrough. It is now so popular, solving so many problems. And the amount of computation necessary for reasoning, for thinking, is 100 times, 1,000 times more than a couple of years ago when ChatGPT was a one-shot answer AI. And so now these reasoning AIs requires a lot of thinking, a lot of compute. The demand is just incredible.
Now, you're telling me even since
of course,
GTC,
we're getting more customers.
But even since GTC, you just increased it. It was 100 times less for GTC. Now it's possibly even 1,000. Yeah. How is this possible, Jensen? And why are there still people who are holding back and not seeing what you're doing? We will all have robots. We will all have we'll have hands-free driving. All of this is going to come about much faster than people realize because of what you're working on.
It's completely true. It's completely. Robotics is definitely within the next 3 to 4 or 5 years. The technology works today. It's starting to work very well today. Now, once the technology becomes realized, becomes possible, it's only a couple of 2-3 ticks for an engineer to crank it and turn it into something that could be really scaled out in volume. And so self-driving cars are here, that we know. Robotics is going to be right around the corner. Robotic factories being built around the world. Yeah, this is the next great growth opportunity.
All right, so let's talk software. I don't think enough is talked about software. I don't think we're not talking about Omniverse enough, and we're not talking about the idea that you're just not selling these devices. You're selling a full platform that's not duplicable, which is why you're so far ahead of everybody else. It's not just about the hardware.
We used to be a chip company, and then we became a systems company. And Jim, you know now, we're an entire infrastructure company. If you take a look at what we build, it's an entire factory. And you can't just load up a factory with chips. You got computing systems, you got networking systems and switches. But what you have mostly is a mountain of software to get it all to run. When you've got a $50 billion infrastructure, the software necessary to keep it humming and to make the utilization and the efficiency and its throughput as high as possible, that piece of software is invaluable. If the utilization was 10% off, that's worth $5 billion. And so this is a very big deal now. Software is just a giant part of our business.
Okay, how about we have to talk about society and when I hear what you can do, when I hear what the robots can do, when I know what Boston Dynamics, 1X, when I see what these companies can do, I wonder, is the CEO of Anthropic going to be right when he talks about a bloodbath of white-collar workers, unemployment spiking 10 to 20%, mass elimination of jobs? Or isn't your vision that productivity, like whether it be the loom, whether it be the canal, whether it be the steam engine, these were all generators of jobs, not retractors of jobs?
It's a generator of jobs. There are surely different views. Let me give you this view.
Okay.
There's a labor shortage between now and the end of the decade that's measured in some 30, 40, 50 million short. If you just translate 50 million people short in labor force and translate that to GDP growth, it's extraordinary. It's approximately about the size of the United States. And so the ability for us to expand what is today a limited and short labor shortage, we around the world should be able to expand our GDP, and that's our future, to be able to, turn these agents, which are essentially workforce robots, information robots, and human robots, physical robots, to expand the world's GDP.
All right, one last question from me. I want to be sure that we have a smooth transition to the next iteration, to Ultra, and then even to Rubin. How are we feeling? Because I know that there was a glitch. I got a little too aggressive in thinking everything would be smooth. I got ahead. I don't want to get ahead of myself this time. We looking good?
Well, first of all, Jim, remember, we made last quarter, we made the quarter before that. So it was not easy. It was not easy. And let me tell you why it wasn't easy. In the case of Grace Blackwell, because of this thinking machine we wanted to create, this reasoning AI factory we wanted to create, we changed the architecture of these AI supercomputers. The architecture is completely different, and it's extraordinarily complex. And so anyways, now the entire supply chain, not only that, we enabled a very, very large supply chain to be able to build these things. Every ODM, every OEM, CSPs, they've now got it up and running.
Okay.
And now here's the really great thing. Ultra is exactly the same architecture, exactly the same chassis, and so we'll just slip it right in and keep running.
All right, we're going to leave it there. I wish you the best of luck. Congratulations on an amazing quarter, and let's see if the president's plan includes opening China back for you. Thank you so much, Jensen Huang.
Thank you, Jim.
Absolutely. President, founder, CEO.
Off to the races.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Good to see you.